everybody. I'm Lisa Brennan.
And I'm Justin Trice. Welcome to Crime of the Arts,
a true crime podcast that peeks behind the curtain to shine a light on the dark and untold truths of the creative arts.
From film set mysteries to celebrity murders and art heists, these two theater nerds will usher you into the unknown.
This week, I am going to tell you the story about the day the music died.
Oh, okay. That sounds very intriguing. Up my alley. And I'm going to cover Jussie Smollett, his hate crime hoax. Or, thanks to Dave Chappelle, some people might know him as Jussie Smollett. But I don't know if you saw that sketch, but yes.
I did not, but God, I've really grown to love Dave Chappelle. I couldn't stand him when we were in college. You guys ruined it, I think. But for the most part, I absolutely adore all of his stand-up. I met Dave Chappelle once.
What? No.
Do you know that story?
No.
Yeah, I met him when I worked in the airport, and he was going to fly British Airways with his family and his beautiful wife and his kids, and they came in, and he, comes sauntering in, and this is when, nobody knows where he is. This is 2013.
Before his reemergence, yeah.
Yeah, and walks in, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, this is scrawny dude. He looks kind of familiar. And that's what would happen. A celebrity would walk in, and I'd be like, first of all, I've been up since 2 o'clock in the morning, so I don't know what the fuck is up. and then I'd be like, that person is a celebrity. I just can't put it where it goes. So he walks over, and I was in the metal detector, and he had his sunglasses on still. And I'm like, motherfucker, there's not another person in here who's going to recognize you. It's just a TSA. There's no line, nothing. And you can't walk through with sunglasses on. So I was like, can I just see your glasses? And he's like, don't break them. And he took them off and handed it to me. I was like, think I got it. Don't worry. Gave it back. Don't break them. I was so mad. So how are you, friend?
I'm good. I'm here. I don't know. I'm off, but I've just been so busy with life and other stuff. I don't know. But yes, I'm good.
Family things
and life things. It's my go. So yeah, I will be covering Jussie Smollett. And like I said, this hate crime hoax, if you will, that's what we're calling it. We're going to get into the nitty gritty of that at one point, but let me just give a backstory for those of you that somehow live under a rock. And not only did you miss that whole event, you're still missing everything with him now that's happening.
I might be under that rock recently, so we'll find out.
It's all good. Got some videos to show you on that at some point. But yeah, Jussie Smollett was born June 21st back in 1982 in Santa Rosa, California. He's the son of Janet and Joel Smollett and is the third of 6 siblings. There's a lot of siblings.
Oh, Jesus.
And you're familiar with some of the siblings. We're going to get into that in a bit, too. Because his sister is Journey Smollett. I know you probably don't watch Lovecraft County, but she's been around since the 90s. She was like one of Michelle's best friends on Full House. She was also Black Canary, and
yes.
There you go, yeah. But so that's his sister. But yeah, he and his siblings are actually half Black, half African American, and half Jewish. His family moved to Elmhurst neighborhood of Queens in New York when he was just 2 years old. Yeah, before they were like, we're going to relocate again. And they moved the whole family to LA when he was 7. So, and again, it's just crazy. Like, yeah, you were born in, California, then you go East Coast. Now you're like, fuck that, we're going back to the West Coast. But
I just don't, it's fascinating to me that every person we talk about, I'd say 80% of them that is a celebrity pick up and move to LA at a very young age. Right. Very strange.
The heart of film back then, TV was all LA. During the family's time in LA, Jussie and his siblings grew up in a family that was heavily involved in the entertainment industry. However, his father was absent most of his childhood and around the time he and his siblings became child actors. So essentially, Jussie began his acting career as a child model back in New York before he even landed his first few roles as an extra in some early 90s movies such as Mo Better Blues, New Jack City. He went on to appear in various TV shows and films over the next few years, including The First Mighty Ducks. He was in there very briefly. He wasn't even one of the main ducks. I wouldn't consider him a main ducks because you know how like half of them quit and then the true team is formed? Yeah.
He was a quitter.
Yeah. Jussie's breakout role came in 2015 when he was cast as Jamal Lyon, the middle son of Lucius and Cookie Lyon, on a hit television show Empire. For those of you who don't know it, it was a Fox.
I never watched Empire, but that's the only thing I've ever known him to be on.
Yeah, he's not as famous as his sister. His sister's been on tons of other TV shows. He was like on a TV show as a kid, but it was short lived. He's not.
Tell me her name again. I just want to make sure that she's who I think she is in my
Journey,
head.
Journee.
N-E-E.
Yeah, she was also in what was it, The Great Debaters?
Oh, yeah.
Denzel's directorial debut.
She's been in. Oh, she was just in something. She was on Friday Night Lights.
That too. Right? Oh yes, she was on Friday Night Lights.
Oh damn, I loved her on Friday Night Lights.
About, right? Yeah.
Yes,
okay, just making sure.
It's like one of my favorite shows. She was great on that show.
She was on there once upon a time. She's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Spiderhead.
Yes.
Did you watch that movie?
I saw that. That was pretty good.
That movie was wild. Why don't I see her being credited for Friday Night Lights on here? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Mystery solved.
I know more than I think I do.
Nailed it.
It's all somewhere in a vault back here. You seem to have the keys. But
I know. She's got like that trademark smile. Like, you know her when you see her.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
So he ended up on Empire, which if you've never seen it, it was this hit Fox show. It was basically Terrence Howard doing another Hustle and Flow, for those of you that seen that. So you know, Lucius Lyon was essentially former drug kingpin and all these things, and now he's built this rap empire. But it's like Succession, but for rap, because it's like he's over here giving tough love to his sons, and he's like, one of you gotta come take over the family empire. He's just like, my legacy is my music. My legacy is my music, man. And I would check it out. It has some good tracks in it. There's some good music. I still bump, but
that show was very, very popular.
It was, but you know, it just became too much like a soap opera by season 2 or 3, so I had to step away from it. But yes, it was very popular, and it received high praises from most critics, and because of the positive depiction of a gay black man on TV, because Jussie Smollett's character was gay, and you know, he hid that for some time to appease his father, Lucius, and then he came out, and it showed his struggle through that and how he was finding who he is and standing up to his father.
That's not a storyline that's common.
Exactly. So it was seen in positive light. The show went to air basically for 6 seasons from 2015 to 2020. It won multiple awards in the process, but although it was one of the most watched TV shows on the Fox network at the time, of course, because it's Fox, the show was canceled after the 6th season, and Jussie Smollett was written off the show during the final season as a result of what's to come.
So why do you say because it's Fox, of course, it was canceled?
Well, no, to be fair, I was just making that joke, but Fox does have a tendency of canceling a lot of things ahead of its time. This had already run its course, and I mean, this was justifiably canceled because of what he ended up doing. Like, he became such a pillar on that show. Right.
Like actors in their real lives. Again, this is that whole fourth wall, like Nexium we talked about, where you can't go back and watch Smallville without thinking of it. They ruin all their work.
Exactly.
By stupid shit they do in their real life. Like, not that Roseanne Barr is someone I'm defending because I'm not in the business of that, but she, you know, made a comeback on her own, had her show like revamped, and then they had to fucking kill her off because the show was named after her, and they had to murder her in the show and have her heart attack or something. And
exactly
because she's an asshole, you know, it's crazy.
At least that show survived.
Well, because she wasn't the part that people liked.
Yeah. But that's the catch. It's like Empire kind of went all in on Jussie Smollett's character, and once he was doing what he was doing off screen, it's like, fuck, we got to end this now.
So wait, I have a question now. You can tell me to just wait a second because I might be jumping the gun. But so his character is a gay man.
Right.
Is he gay in real life?
He is gay in real life. He's openly gay.
Okay.
There's a lot of interviews where he discusses, like, if you look back within the first year of Empire, he's proud of the role because that show shedded light so much, not just on that, but like also other taboos within the quote unquote African American community, like mental disorders, things like that, because, you know, he was playing that role and he brought the representation to that, and his brother, like his character brother on the show, he dealt with bipolar, and like the family wasn't acknowledging that, and it became a huge thing. So there was a lot of topics. Yeah.
There's a lot of groundbreaking stuff in the storylines. And what an opportunity he had to like really represent his community.
Right.
And then he does something outrageously stupid.
Well, we're going to get into the consequences of all those things now.
Oh, my God.
So we're going to fast track. January 29th, 2019, Jussie Smollett reported to Chicago police that he had been attacked by two men while walking home from a Subway restaurant. Jussie stated that the men had shouted racist and homophobic slurs at him, put a rope around his neck, and poured a substance on him. He described his assailants as white males who were Trump supporters and claimed that they shouted MAGA country while they were attacking him.
Oh, my God.
A week prior to the attack, on January 22nd, 2019, a letter addressed to Smollett had arrived at Chicago's studio where he was working with a drawing of a stick figure hanging from a tree with a gun pointed towards it and lettered magazine clippings that read, Smollett, Jussie, you will die, and MAGA, leading people to initially believe that it was premeditated hate crime. I know, you go ahead.
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so a week prior to his assault,
allegedly,
he received a Joker letter with a hangman on it. Is that what you're saying?
I am saying that. I am saying that.
Okay. So then, this is in Chicago, right? You said Chicago based.
It's in a particular neighborhood of Chicago, which, I mean, if you've been to Chicago's not having all of this. I'm just throwing that out. Chicago.
Right. 100%. Okay, so he made it. What the fuck? There's a Joker letter.
There's essentially a Joker letter
with a hangman and a gun.
And it happened to know that he was going to be in that studio a week prior.
That story is not far-fetched in 2019 for MAGA country and this whole like way our society was in that year. So no one really questioned him. Like we were already having white supremacist marches and shit that year. So sure, that could be true. Right.
It could potentially be true. But once I was like, it's fucking Chicago. And where was that? I'm like, I don't know about this. You know, that was like before we knew about the letter thing, because like that didn't even come out until the assault had happened. You know what I mean? Then it was like, a week prior.
He lost me at the letter. He had this whole thing planned out until he went Riddler or whatever and started sending ransom notes, essentially. So do we know what the substance was? Was it like a soda or a slushy? Was he like Glee slushy in the streets of Chicago?
Maybe we'll find out in a bit.
Okay.
But the Chicago...
Now I'm just picturing him in the hallways of Glee being slushy. Sorry.
No, you're good. I see that too. I see Rachel getting it. It's like, oh, it's grape. It's purple.
Blue slushy.
Yeah, blue slushy. Yeah, the Chicago police began an investigation into the incident, and Jussie received an outpouring support from fans and, you know, fellow celebrities. His whole cast of Empire and crew, you know, they supported him publicly. They were like, justice will be served. They'll get these people, blah, blah, blah. And as the investigation progressed, the Chicago police began to uncover evidence that suggested that Jussie had staged the attack.
Could you imagine being the cops and being like, wait a minute, would he have done this? The pivotal point of being like, our victim is our suspect is wild. And you got all these people publicly being like, we back you, Jussie. We're behind you. We love you and support you. And he just made fools of all of them.
Well, that's the thing, too. And it just puts everyone in a tough situation because you like you said, back then, shit was running very Trump high and a lot of shit was happening. So imagine being the cop or like the sergeant in charge of that particular force that discovers...
wanting to be like, you're a liar?
Yeah, then now you're like, shit, do I call him out on being a liar so I can diffuse the flames? Or do I just let this happen because of whatever sort of movement is happening? This whole thing should be a miniseries in itself, honestly.
Right. Yeah. It's like a hot button topic.
Yeah.
The gay community is under fire all the time. So how are you going to turn around and tell this guy he's lying? That's like telling a rape culture that someone who came forward and sexually assaulted is lying. It's very difficult. But then you have schmucks like this guy who manipulate the system somehow, and they ruin it for everyone. Now people can't come forward and be like, I had been attacked and it was a hate crime, because they're going to immediately be like, well, are you Jussie Smolletting us or what? You know, it sucks.
So, yeah, it's just wild. They slowly started to uncover that evidence suggesting he staged it. And then the police found video footage of because allegedly this had happened. He was like getting off the train. It was technically the train station or something, I believe they said.
Okay, I don't remember.
But the police found video footage of the two Nigerian brothers purchasing supplies that were used in the attack just hours before it occurred.
There's so much I don't know, apparently. I don't remember.
You didn't know about this part? Oh, well, I'm going to take you down the rabbit hole. So okay, go ahead. I'll just shut up. On top, no, what were you going to say?
Not only did he make up the fact that this happened,
right? He
performed it?
More or less, he performed it. We're starting to piece together. Okay. This is, when I say staged attack, I mean it figuratively and literally. Yeah. So, on top of that,
actors.
They found surveillance footage of the two brothers near the scene of the crime, but the camera did not capture the actual incident as it was turned the opposite direction. Let that sink in.
Okay.
And again, to be fair, because I'm pretty sure it was a subway, someone else could have turned that camera around. I'm not saying they turned it to pre-stage. I'm just saying.
Like it was literally moved from the way that it usually was. It's not like they were just outside of the frame.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, all of the evidence gathered of the two brothers was enough for the authorities to justify a raid of the brothers' home when they found bleach. There's your answer. And other supplies used in the staged hate crime.
He voluntarily had bleach poured on him?
All on his clothing. What? It wasn't in his face or hair. It was all on. But yes.
Gross. Oh, wow. Okay. So again, I was just listening to another podcast where we were talking about, like, if you go to Walmart and you buy this set of 5 or 6 things, you should be flagged at the door. Like, it's a murder kit you just bought. What are you doing with this?
It's just like search engines. If you start searching certain things, I mean, you will get flagged.
No, they don't have a Walmart ticker. They need a little person to stand there and find all of the murderers.
Oh my gosh. You just need the door greeter to check your receipt on the way out. Oh, you got some gloves and you got some tourniquets, and is this a bone saw?
That 89-year-old man who just doesn't want to sit home anymore.
Yeah, I'm fixing
Leave it up to him.
I'm fixing the old piping in my house. Okay, have a nice day.
Oh shit. Perfect.
All of that evidence justified, like I said, for them to authorize a raid on those guys' homes where they found the bleach and other supplies used in the staged hate crime.
He didn't even get it staged with 2 white men. He got it staged with 2 black men.
Yeah. That's another. Again,
he's bad at this.
Again, in the beginning when we first heard this story, we didn't know the race of these guys. We didn't know the ethnicity. We didn't know any of that. So everyone assumed it was just 2 white guys fucking about saying MAGA country. Right. I mean,
right. Okay.
But yeah. Well, come with me further into the descent. They discovered that the 2 brothers had actually worked as extras on Empire. And Jussie had paid them $3,500 to stage the attack.
Each? Or to share? To
share.
Boy.
Both of the brothers were held in police custody on suspicion of battery, but were later released on February 15th without any charges once they were able to determine that Smollett had hired them to stage the hate crimes. On February 20th, 2019, Smollett was subsequently charged with a Class 4 felony consisting of 16 counts of disorderly conduct for filing a false police report, and surrendered himself to the police the following day.
Damn, 4 felonies?
I mean, again, this went nationwide.
It sure did. International, probably.
Yeah. A few weeks after all of that, March 14th, Smollett pled not guilty to the charges he was facing. Eventually, the charges were later dropped by Cook County State Attorney's Office in exchange for Jussie performing community service and forfeiting his $10,000 bond. However, special prosecutor was assigned to his case to evaluate the events that led to the charges being dropped, and a new set of charges were announced on February 11th. They were like, gotcha, bitch. And Smollett he was indicted on 6 counts of felony disorderly conduct for lying to the police.
Huh. So, okay. That's really interesting. Hold on a second. They did not want to put him in prison on charges of hate crime stuff.
Yeah.
So they put new charges on him for lying to the police.
Yeah, I mean, essentially it looks like because he was a celebrity and a starter, he was going to get off, but nah, they got him for the other stuff. Yeah, they
I feel like there's some political
there's some
to that, though,
I'm
right?
sure
like
there's
they don't
some.
want to put the light on the fact that he was a gay man.
Right.
And this is a hate crime. They want the light to be on his actions as a hoax.
Correct. So
interesting.
With that said, I told you he was indicted on 6 counts of felony disorderly conduct for lying to the police. But once his second trial had concluded, yeah, how crazy is that? Hey, I'm happy the justice system was getting it right that time. Like the fact that I can sit here and say second trial.
It doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't.
Least.
But but
they were ready to nail his ass to the floor and make an example of him.
But there's room. There's a whole separate conversation that could be had on that too. It's a black performer. If this was a white performer that did this, would there be 2 trials? There's a lot of.
I think the answer is no.
Yeah. It's such a gray area.
Flip this disc.
So once his second trial had concluded, Smollett was found guilty of the 5 out of 6 counts of felony disorderly conduct on December 9th, 2021. He was sentenced to 150 days on March 10th, 2022, basically several months later, in a county jail, and he was ordered to pay $120,000 in restitution for the overtime spent on the Chicago PD officers that worked on the investigation of the case. After he was sentenced in court during his trial, and this is why I said some of y'all can look up videos on this. I know, Lisa, I don't think you've heard or seen these videos. When they first came out, I've watched them multiple times because I'm like, this motherfucker's crazy. That's just my hot take on it.
Is it a monologue? Did he write his own monologues, or is he just batshit out of his mind?
I wish he would have wrote his own monologues, but he lives in his own world. That's for sure. Like he thinks he's untouchable. But what happens is he has multiple outbursts in the courtroom. He claims multiple times that he was innocent and that he's not suicidal, and he continues to go on a rant. Like, when I'm telling you this, the video's flat out, they gave him a sentencing. They're like, do you have anything to say? His lawyer says no, and he's like, actually, Honor. And he stands up and he's like, I want you all to know that through the end of time, I maintain my innocence. And if anything happens to me in jail, I want you all to know I am not suicidal. I am not suicidal. And he continues to rant that. And then he does like Black Power. He does the fist up. They walk him out in contempt. And I'm like, this is fucking crazy. Like,
oh boy.
So watch the videos. It's all over YouTube. Anyone interested in this? And again,
he was performing. He was performing.
That's all he ever does. Don't get me wrong. You're innocent until proven guilty. In this case, he was already proven guilty. And there was a lot of damning evidence against him too. For instance, I told you about the 3,500. When those guys got raided and everything else, and they were taken into custody, and stories partially coming out about they had worked on the set of Empire. In Smollett's testimony, he still kept claiming that he wasn't performing, but they can track the payments. This motherfucker paid them through Venmo, and he was stating he was stating, like, I didn't pay them for a hate crime hoax. I paid them as personal trainers to help me work out. Like, he was just doing the most with no real.
He's stupid.
So there was just a lot of shit that was going down.
Paid him in Venmo. Like, I cannot.
Yeah.
I can't.
And your defense was they were here to help me work out. But then the evidence is there that they were extras once upon a time. That's the connection on how you knew them. But yes, he had these outbursts in a courtroom. Everybody go check it out. He was eventually released from prison after a few appeals to the court. He did multiple appeals to the state of Illinois. And essentially it was voted 2-1 in favor of him being released once he had posted his personal recognizance bond of $150,000, pending the outcome of the appeal of his conviction.
Do you know how long he was in there? 180 days.
Yeah, he wasn't even in there. I don't think he was in there for the full 150 days to begin with. Like, I think he was only in there for half that time because the appeals. So
it's nice to be rich.
Yeah. And again, Lisa already touched on it. I already touched on it a little bit too. The Jussie Smollett hate crime hoax. It's fucked up because it was such a significant event that received widespread media attention. I mean, the incident raised questions about the validity of hate crimes and the impact of false reports on the credibility of hate crime victims. It also sparked a national conversation about race, sexuality, and politics. Like, many people felt that Jussie's actions were harmful to the LGBTQ plus and the Black communities.
100% harmful.
It definitely was pretty damning, especially during that time when, I'm just going to use the term MAGA country, as he said, when this was all happening, you have such great politicized sweeps. I call it politicized hysteria. That's what I call those years. You had
100%.
all of that happening, and now you had this, which could have swung the pendulum in a certain direction, and now it's false. So now it's just.
Yeah. And you know what? The thing is, there's actual hate crimes that occur every day that don't get this kind of press and media attention. And he just ruined it.
It's crazy.
Not that I want him to be affected in that way in real life. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be a hoax.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. You don't want it to happen to him in real life, but you didn't want it to be a hoax because, again, like it did a lot of damage to both those communities. And even so, it technically fanned the flames even harder in terms of this political hysteria that was happening, because now
they're all lying and blah, blah, blah.
They're all lying. They're all a bunch of liars staging their own thing.
See all the shit they make up about us?
It created this whole just consequential backlash. Like, it's just all crazy to me. So, and it's funny because, again, when you first hear the story, I'm just a cynical person in general. When I first heard the story, I'm like, but it's in so-and-so of Chicago. Like, that's very culturally, it's just very friendly to the LGBTQ community and Black community. It's very diverse. I was like, this is so fucking sus. I'm like, okay, maybe they got off the train. Maybe just these two assholes happened to be on the same train and they thought it'd be funny to follow the man off the train. I don't know.
Right.
But it was just not adding up. But the problem is when you try to say that out loud to people in our current state of affairs that was happening, now it's like, you're the asshole because you're bringing up, you're potentially discrediting him. But then it turned out that he was fucking lying anyway.
Be the case.
So,
but oh God, what a douche!
It was just this crazy phenomenon, and like so many Black celebrities even spoke up about it. I mean, Dave Chappelle had a whole sketch on it, but like DL Hughley, so many of them were all reacting the same way. We're like, in this part, fucking Chicago. Okay, we're gonna see what happens. Benefit of the doubt, but
yeah.
It was bullshit. And unfortunately, from the beginning of this whole incident, Terrence Howard, Taraji P. Henson, the entire cast and crew of Empire, even Fox backed this man. They were in the middle of like finishing season 5 and they started to film the 6th season. They put out these statements defending him. Fucking Terrence Howard and all of them are donating money for his legal causes, all these things that was getting ready to happen before all of this unveiled. And then it unveiled, and it sucks because by the end of season 5, he basically became like the show and they were already gearing towards another storyline. So what happens now is they already started filming season 6. they took a break during all of this. And then that's when Fox announced, you know, they're going to release the remaining episodes, and they canceled. They canceled halfway through the season, because that's the thing. If they don't cancel as an image, now that looks bad on Fox. That looks bad on the rest of them that defended him, even though they didn't know the true extent of what he did in real time. So, yeah, it was just damage all across the board.
Yep.
You destroyed a show that brought representation. You fucking just swayed the pendulum, and now you got the other side that's raving about all this other stuff. Like, they're all just lying now.
It's infuriating.
I don't know. Despite the charges being dropped, Jussie Smollett basically faced significant backlash and consequences as a result of the incident. Like I said, he was written off the TV show. Then they canceled the show. They were like, writing him off was not enough. They canceled it. He struggled to find work in the entertainment industry. I don't feel sorry for him.
Has he found any?
I haven't seen this motherfucker on anything, and deservingly so. I mean, but you know how it goes. A decade from now, they'll probably put him on something as a redemption. On top of criminal charges he faced, the city of Chicago sued him for $130,000 for misleading the Chicago Police Department and wasting their resources, along with $1,000 for every false statement he made. He also faced a defamation lawsuit from the Asundaro brothers, who claimed that Jussie had falsely accused them of the attack.
Oh, that's an interesting turn. So they sued Jussie Smollett for defamation because, like, they didn't know that he was going to say these people beat me up and it was a hate crime. Like, what did they think was going to happen? Their
whole thing is like, this was supposed to be part of something else. Like, he didn't explain to them that this is necessarily going to be a hoax. I think they were under the impression that this is going to be filmed for something else, but it wasn't.
Okay.
Like, they might have thought this was going to be part of a commercial or infomercial. It's never clear.
They're full of shit, Justin. They're full of shit.
I mean, they're full of shit, but they still got off. They didn't get any money from him, but, you know.
That's good.
They essentially tried to sue him for $2 million, say that they weren't involved in the hoax.
So he's never said... He's proclaimed his innocence this whole time, right? So he's never been like, "This is why I did it."
No, he's never.
No explanation.
He's never admitted it. He's sticking to his guns. He's innocent.
Wow. Could you imagine picturing him in his house, like a lunatic with a magazine, like cutting letters out, like gluing them on a fucking piece of paper and mailing it to himself? Like, come on. That's crazy. That's
wild.
crazy.
And there were so many accusations left and right. Because, like, on trial, he claimed that the brothers were over here asking him for like $1 million each not to testify against him, things like that. But they never confirmed on that. Like, there was a lot of shit.
I mean, if they sued for $2 million and they asked for $1 million each, I'm going to probably say that's probably true. But it's a whole bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
Listen, don't do crime, folks. Continue to be idiots.
Yeah, don't do crime, folks. But again, yeah, if you're gonna do a crime, don't showboat your own crime, folks. Don't think you're a mastermind. Don't throw it in our faces. It's crazy because check out that trial in general, because he claimed that the two brothers, they drove from Lakeview to wherever to meet up with him to work out. Hence, he paid them the money. They're his personal trainers, but. You know, again, court looks into all that shit. They see that these guys aren't personal trainers. They dug into the history, saw that they were once extras. They know your history with them.
Just poor planning.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's my story on the Jussie Smollett hate crime hoax.
Let me introduce you to a few new friends of ours.
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
Week after week, I'm mesmerized by the focus given great films and questionable films alike. But every episode is a learning and entertaining experience.
This is hands down the best movie podcast. They cover so many different genres across so many years, from obscure movies to blockbusters.
If there's only one podcast about movies and cinema that you listen to, make it this one.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
Okay, let me go find my script.
And yes, Patreon, at some point, I will look like a normal person again. I've been off for like 2 weeks, and
what normal person don't you look like?
No, it's just the hair's looking crazy. I'm just Grizzly Adams because I just don't. I've been off forever. And you know, the problem is ever since I did the big chop and chopped all my hair off, it's still growing. My scalp still thinks that I have all that hair, so it's just growing so fucking fast and so curly. It's like I cut this every couple of weeks. It's already like in a mini. I combed out the little curls already. I'm like, please, I just, I needed to get used to being short.
I like it. So my story is called "The Day the Music Died," and this is one of those Dateline kind of stories. So it's a little bit obscure. It's not exactly a person that you know, but I figured I'd bring us something a little bit different than the usual. So Dr. Frank McCutcheon, known simply as Buddy, settled in the little city of Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay.
He was accompanied by his wife, Brenda.
Okay.
Brenda. Now, Buddy loved music. He loved the history of Asheville and the mountains. So it was a pretty easy decision for them. He was a plastic surgeon and Brenda was a nurse, and they actually met in schooling. And eventually, Buddy opened his own cosmetic surgery practice in Asheville, and Brenda ended up putting her career aside so she can help him manage his business.
Okay.
They never had any children, but they were content, always keeping busy with their other hobbies and interests. Like he was a Civil War reenactor.
Okay.
And music was literally his heart. He was a true musician. He was a preservationist of the music that made America, you know, from instruments to musicians. Buddy knew everything about it.
Right.
And music was his passion. Like, he was a doctor, but he looked at that doctor position as the thing that let him do the thing he loved most. He'd be up late waiting for a call, sitting in his scrubs, ready, but he'd be like learning how to play a banjo.
Sorry, I was about to sneeze. I didn't want to sneeze into the mic. I was like, my bad.
You're good. So he'd use that time that he'd be sitting and waiting for a call to learn the banjo, let's say, or the fiddle. And they played one of his songs in the Dateline episode, and it's wild. It's very complex, and it's just, he sang all of the melodies and he played all of the instruments. He was a very talented musician.
Oh, damn. Okay.
He was so talented that he actually was prominent and popular enough to be on local TV in Asheville.
Okay, so he was a local rock star. Well, I shouldn't say rock star, but local powerful musician. Yeah.
Yep. And he knew all about the people behind the famous line, "The Day the Music Died," hence the name Buddy, which was a Friday night in July of 2016. Let me set the scene for you. It was sticky and hot. Tourists were brought in by the summer weather, and they filled all the music clubs and crowded into all the town bars. While a few miles away in a quaint house on an uncrowded road just outside of Asheville was Buddy and Brenda McCutcheon. They were settling down in their nice, cool, air-conditioned house to go to bed.
Okay.
Brenda had been asleep upstairs while Buddy dozed off downstairs in front of the TV. Pretty standard operating procedure for a couple who's been together for 30-something years. But at around 3 a.m., Brenda awoke to a sound that was like a sharp thunderclap.
Thunder.
And in her groggy mind, she was like, is there a storm happening? Like, did something fall off the wall? What the fuck was that?
Right.
And then their dog started barking incessantly. So she rushed downstairs to see what was going on. And there was Buddy sprawled on the couch. She found her husband dead in the living room. So she ran to the phone and called 911. Did you have a question?
No, I'm just saying what? I'm trying to picture how he died. You said thunder, and I'm like, bullet, but I'll let you get there.
So Brenda stated during the 911 call that the back door was open because Buddy didn't lock it. She said that she believed an intruder had come in, shot him, and fled the scene. So when detectives arrived, they were unsure of what to make of all of this. They headed to the house with their body cameras rolling, and they encountered Brenda outside in the pitch black in her pajamas with no shoes on.
Right. Okay.
And they asked her what happened. And through tears and panic, She said he'd been shot, and you can hear the 911 call, and you could see the body cam rolling footage in the Dateline episode. Excuse him.
I saw him walk in as you were like, they discovered he was dead, and then Oscar was like, "Oh, this sounds interesting."
Oscar kills all of the suspense. So Brenda claimed that she had ran to her neighbor's house for help, but nobody answered the door, so she came back home instead and called 911 using her own phone. And a violent crime like this was uncommon in Asheville, North Carolina, and it rarely involved a victim like Buddy. Loved ones remembered Buddy as a Renaissance man who was like the glue to their family. And when his family was notified of his murder, the next question they had, of course, was, is Brenda okay? And physically she was. But her husband of 30 years was dead, and life as she knew it was over, and it would never be the same again.
Damn.
After arriving, the officers entered the house. It was dark, except for the glow of the TV, and barely visible, you could see the body of 64-year-old Buddy McCutcheon sprawled out on the couch. He had a gunshot wound to the top of his head, and he was facing the rear of the couch.
The rear, you say? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There was some early speculation, and the questions were just beginning, because that's kind of an odd way to find a person.
That's a very fucking odd position to find them in. That's why I'm like, wait a minute.
So they figured an autopsy would tell them something, right? The gun had to have been somewhere if he had taken his own life, you know? And with the entry wound being at the top of the rear of Buddy's skull, that seemed kind of difficult to look at in the vein of suicide or having taken his own life. So what's option number 2? Homicide, which is what Brenda thought. And she said it must have been that intruder, and they must have shot Buddy. And what if they were still inside the house? No one had cleared the house yet, so deputies began clearing the house, and there was no evidence pointing to the presence of anyone else being there. Authorities did find a silver gun tossed in the rows of ivy in their backyard. It was confirmed that that was the murder weapon, and it was owned by Buddy. Brenda said that it was usually kept in the kitchen drawer, which seems like a weird fucking place to keep a gun. However, the drawer she told them that it was in was way too full to have a gun in it. So
that whole thing is just fucking random. Listen, again, people can keep guns in their house. That's fine. I'm not questioning that. But who strategically leaves a gun in the kitchen? Maybe my gun's under the dining room table. Maybe my gun's in the steady drawer, but it's not in the kitchen drawer. No.
Next to the forks?
Next
not
to the forks.
Usually.
No.
I wouldn't think that.
No.
Like, I need a ladle. Hold on, let me move my gun out of the way so I can get my ladle. Seems fucking stupid, right? It's just a really, again, bad lie.
Yeah.
So, there were no fingerprints on the weapon, which my true crime alarm started going off. Like, what the fuck? How is there no fingerprints on a gun that was owned by the guy who was now dead? But they did find a mixture of DNA. And while Buddy was the major contributor to that DNA, 2 other minor profiles couldn't be identified. So as for Brenda, she had no blood or gunshot residue on her clothes, save a small particle on her shirt. Okay. So what do you think?
Oh, gosh. I'm thinking Brenda had something to do with it.
You always look at the wife, right?
You do. I'm thinking Brenda might have. I'm thinking Brenda might have. I don't think she pulled the trigger, but I think Brenda certainly knew who the fuck killed her husband. And she's just not saying that because maybe it will now incriminate her in things. Maybe she had a lover and the lover did it, but she doesn't want to come out and be like, I had an affair, because she still thinks that's a secret. Like, something's not adding up here. The gun, not everybody that comes into your house fucking knows there's a gun in your kitchen, okay? And now it's just casually thrown out there.
Right. So, okay. Those are really, really good surmises of situations. Okay. So the investigators began looking closely at Brenda, as you normally would.
Right.
But they looked at her relationship with Buddy specifically. They learned that she worked at Buddy's practice with him as the office manager, and she took care of all the finance stuff. And they found out that the couple was being investigated by the Department of Revenue for possible embezzlement and obtaining property by false pretense.
Oh, damn. Okay.
So Brenda had known about it since the authorities spoke to her and Buddy in their office just the week prior. And they were looking for tax records and employee payroll reports. Say that 3 times fast. Employee payroll reports. So at a storage facility that Brenda rented, the police found several boxes labeled personal taxes and insurance claims. And she had actually talked to a shredding company to destroy the contents of about 40 boxes in the days preceding Buddy's death.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty sus. Pretty sus. Sensing danger and being the finance head of the company, she decided to relocate. That's when she was held as the primary suspect in the police's case files. So according to investigators, shortly after killing Frank, Brenda McCutcheon began destroying crucial business documents, sold her home, and moved to Tennessee. More than a year after her husband's death, she was charged with first-degree murder and turned herself in the same week. And while she claimed to have nothing to do with Buddy's death, the authorities thought otherwise. And during the investigation, it came to light that Buddy was not so innocent himself. He had been having affairs throughout their marriage, including 2 with nurses in the office that they both worked. Bro.
2
other nurses.
2 other nurses.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So the prosecution stated that Brenda killed Buddy because she didn't want him to know that she hadn't been paying payroll taxes, and she feared Buddy would divorce her if he did find out. That was the prosecution's guess. And they believed something actually happened on the night of July 15th, the night before he was murdered. It could have been a conversation regarding those finances and the investigation, or maybe Brenda had just found out about the affairs. Who knows? But something had to happen. Something was the catalyst or the tipping point for all of this to occur. On the other hand, the defense reiterated there was absolutely no physical evidence connecting Brenda to this murder. None. And they stated that Buddy also knew about the tax situation for years, and he's the one who chose not to pay. Brenda's lawyer added it could have been an intruder since the back door was open, like she originally said, and the evidence at the scene of their home was flimsy. And it seemed that she had the most motive and the most to gain. Even though there was little evidence that tied her to the murder, there was also little evidence that tied anyone else to the murder of her husband.
That's crazy.
Sadly, despite being distraught by the murder of her husband, she couldn't change the outcome of this case. There are some who don't believe she did it, and more people are sure she's the woman behind the death of her husband. After all, her home is in the middle of nowhere. Nothing was disturbed. Nothing was taken from her home. Nothing was missing. And she tried to tell the story that the people who broke into her home disturbed nothing but the one drawer that they kept their gun in. Like, that's just ridiculous.
Again, I don't know. I feel like she's involved.
You feel like it's a conspiracy kind of thing?
I feel like it's a very convoluted situation. What if one of the nurses he was fucking reached out to the wife, and now the wife was upset, but they conspire like, well, if you want your revenge, kill him. And me being the wife, I'll just say I don't know who did it. Like, there's just something there. I don't know.
I mean, could it have been a murder for hire kind of scenario with an intruder who knew exactly where the gun was?
Yeah.
The only drawer that was touched was the drawer with the gun in it in the kitchen. Like,
and again, what are the exactly? Because that's not a normal place to leave a gun, so no one would know that it's there.
Yep. Some stranger didn't randomly know precisely where to look to find that gun. So the story that someone broke in, opened one drawer to find a gun, shot the man on the couch, and then ran out without taking anything is a little bit unbelievable, you know? And that is likely the most significant factor in the jury's decision on her verdict. They ended up siding with the prosecution and found her guilty of first-degree murder.
Damn. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, February 2021, the then 69-year-old Brenda McCutcheon was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And I think that's pretty wild because...
Yeah. I don't think that's fair.
I don't really either. How do you have no reasonable doubt? You don't need to prove that anybody else did it in order to prove someone else's innocence. Okay, here's the thing. I do think she probably did it. Got him while he was facing the back of the couch.
Yeah.
Right? It's probably less likely to be a conspiratory thing where she had somebody she hired or brought someone in to murder him while she was upstairs. Who knows? I mean, it's still possible. But if you're going to look at the simplest answer, right? She is the one who committed the murder. But there is zero evidence. None. It is purely because she was in the house. It's wild to me. It's kind of scary.
That is kind of scary. I feel like there has to be something. I'm like, okay, maybe they found some damning evidence, but they're like, we won't display this evidence if you just take the guilty plea. But even then, it doesn't add up.
She didn't take a plea.
She didn't take a plea. They straight up was like,
convicted.
You're convicted. Like, that's just, I don't know.
Crazy, right?
Lisa, that just, that makes me feel unsettled here.
It feels unsettled. Yeah, icky. It feels icky.
It feels very icky. I don't agree with this.
So at 69, she's sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. That's it.
I don't mean to laugh, but that's just crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, she's at the end of her life, the end half of her life at 70 years old. She don't need you to give her the possibility of parole if you're not going to let her out now.
Right.
So in the wake of her sentencing, Buddy's brother, John, said, and I quote, "We're relieved the trial is over after 3.5 years. We loved our brother. He was a good doctor and a good friend. And for 34 years, Brenda was a very good sister-in-law. And then she snapped and murdered my brother. I was just trying to absorb everything, but we're glad the jury found her guilty and the prosecutors did a good job." So Brenda actually appealed her sentence. What she used in the filing to appeal her sentence has to do with what the brother had said in his testimony in court. And she felt that what he said swayed the jury straight up. It didn't matter what any of the other evidence was.
Damn. I got to hear this.
I don't have it.
I don't have what his testimony was. I was like, fuck, I got to hear that.
Yep, I don't have it. I don't know what the scenario was, but yeah, I'm assuming it's something just like that. Like she snapped, she's a crazy person.
Damn.
And the 3-judge court refused her request for an appeal in December of 21. And records indicate that she remains incarcerated in Anson Correctional Institute in Polkton, North Carolina. That's it. She's staying there.
That's crazy. She's going... This is wild. Like, again, we both think she might have done it, but they didn't have hard evidence to prove that. There was no definitive proof. There was no evidence. So I'm just really baffled by this shit. Like, there's someone potentially that she might have worked with someone that actually did the murder that got away scot-free.
Yep.
Like they're wow.
Imagine she had nothing to do with it and it was one of those star-crossed lovers or the husband of one of the nurses he cheated on. I mean, there's like 1,000 scenarios you could have come up with because their life was so sort of controversial. And yeah, she's a person. That's it.
That's crazy. We're going to need all of you listeners that end up listening to this episode.
Some web sleuths out there.
I don't care if I don't care if 2 years from now, some of you discover this podcast and you start listening to this. I don't care if it's 20 years from now. Anyone that finally listens to this particular episode, I need you guys to sound off and chime in. Please hit up our social medias, email us, visit our website. Let us know what you think about this particular fucking story, this case. Do you think she did it? And even if you think she did it, do you think she deserved that? Do you think they rightfully gave her the right sentence on that? Like, this is all because I don't agree with this. I think she might have did it, but there's no evidence. There's no evidence.
What's funny is while I was writing the story, I was like, this bitch, like she definitely did it. And the more we sit here and talk about it, I almost feel differently, where I'm like, there really isn't any evidence here. It's barely circumstantial evidence.
And that's my thing. Again, like, don't do crime, folks. Whether she may or may not have done it, they did not prove. They did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she did it. And I definitely feel a way about that. I feel like there's another part of the story that we're missing that no one will ever know. But I do believe maybe she orchestrated that with one of his fucking little nurse flings. I do.
Maybe. You might be right on the nose. But that is the story of the day the music died.
Wow. Okay. Well, that was pretty fucking upsetting.
Right? Sorry. Unnerving.
Yeah, it was very unnerving. And I'm probably going to, by the time I go to sleep tonight, which is technically tomorrow morning because my sleep pattern's all messed up, I'm probably going to wake up briefly going, maybe she did it. I don't know. I might have to create a whole wall of just evidence and things with like rubber band strings trying to gonna have the dramatic mosaic music while I'm trying to solve this.
Some beautiful mind shit going on.
That's
wow. No, it's a crazy story. I was kind of surprised, and I'm also surprised at how up and down I feel about it. It's weird.
We're definitely going to have to hear people. We're going to need listeners on this. I need their opinions on this. Like, but keep an eye on this. And as any event, more news develops.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, this was 21.
Okay.
So you never know. We might be able to add it to the update list. I think we're going to need to do an update episode soon because there's a few cases, at least 2 that I've done. Maybe in the next episode or the one after, I'll do an update on some of the stories because there's some new stuff about Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll just make my story that.
Okay.
So we still are running our giveaway. If anyone wants to get in, we are giving away 2 items, either a shirt or a hat, you choose. Our shirt has the album cover on it, and our hats look something like this, except it'll also say Crime of the Arts underneath. And all you have to do is give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Screenshot it, send it to us on socials or on our email through the website, and we will enter you in the running to win. The first 20 people who send us a screenshot of their review will be immediately mailed stickers and thank you cards.
Yeah.
We're trying to get our information out there. We need to get kicked into the algorithm, so help us share more of these stories. Additionally, if you want to support Crime of the Arts, we do have a Patreon, and we have 2 tiers. We have the $5 tier is the peek behind the curtain tier, and that will get you recordings of us in the studio. I got this cool little ambiance light. I'm changing it up.
She is all about that light. She has brought it up like multiple times before we even started recording. It's a cool light.
I'm amped about it, Justin.
It matches the decor of her Crime of the Arts poster. And the hat, I like it. I do like it.
I'm into it right now. Okay? I ain't got a lot going on. I like this light. So you can get the recordings and you can see my jazzy light. And you'll also get a shout out for your patronage. And then you have the $10 level, which is the Don't Do Crime folks level. I feel like I can't say that without making my eyebrows go up.
I saw the raise. Don't do crime.
and that level will get you those same videos and ad-free RSS feeds in your Apple Podcasts or whatever app you use to listen. And you'll also get a thank you card and some stickers. And we're also going to be giving away more merch stuff as time goes on for our $10 tier patrons.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Oscar said,
Holy moly.
When you look back at the history of the creative arts, it takes a lot of darkness to create the light the arts bring to the world.
Thanks for joining us this week. And if you enjoyed our conversation, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and head over to Apple Podcasts to rate and review.
Please check out our sources listed in the episode notes. They're amazing.
And you can find us on all the social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and you can head on over to crimeoftheartspodcast.com.
We're looking forward to having you back next week. Until next time, peace out, everybody.
Peace